All right, everybody. Today we're going to do something a little different, and at least for me that is, and do a review on a watch. I do enjoy watches. I go fishing a lot, and I also dive and snorkel, so the vast majority of my small collection is dive watches. And I am a fan of Vostok Amphibious, as you can see right here. Here's one of the classic Vostoks that I have in my collection. And I was looking at some of the other Vostok watches, some of the newer ones, and couldn't really find a whole lot of reviews out there on them or information, at least that were in English. There was quite a few in Russian. So the one that I decided to go with next was the Vostok Amfibia Red Sea. And the newer version of the watches are designated by the spelling with an F instead of a PH. So to get right down to it, here's the box it comes in. And as you'll notice, this is very different. If you have any other Vostoks, you're probably used to this guy right here. About the cheapest plastic watch box I've ever seen. So anyway, this comes in the orange and black box. And when you open it, you've got the watch, which is typically wrapped in plastic, but I've been wearing it, so it's not. And some instruction manuals that none of us read. So let's go ahead and get this out. And you'll kind of notice right off the bat, it's very different from the more classic Vostoks that have a much greater popularity. So if you'll take a look at both these side by side, one, it's obviously larger, it appears larger. Completely different bezel, different case, everything about it's very different. They don't look like they're related at all. The logo, the words, the spelling. But believe it or not, they do have the same movement, which is the 2416 movement, in-house Vostok movement. It's 32 joules with a power reserve of 31 hours. I've never had a problem with this. I've snorkeled and dove with this watch. I swim with it all the time. I love it. I have like, I think 3 different versions of this watch, and they're great. They're inexpensive. They're probably about 75 bucks a piece, so you can get multiples of them. Now this one I ended up picking up from Marinom.com. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's a Russian website. It gets mailed from Russia, so it does take a little bit to get here. I think this one took about 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. And I paid about $180, I believe. And it was free shipping as well. So anyway, let's take a look at this one on the wrist. I actually almost instantly fell in love with this. I'm trying to work with that light so you can see the face. It just comes to life in the light. Everything about it with the bezel and the way that sunburst dial works. It actually is when you look at the pictures, it comes out very blue, but in reality, I've noticed that it's kind of sometimes blue, sometimes a deep purple. So it's a little bit different than the pictures, but it's awesome. It looks so great in person, much better than the pictures in my opinion. And it looks good both in the sunlight, or also, let's say if you're walking through a parking lot and just parking lot lights, or in a store with artificial light, the dial really does come to life. And with the little pops of orange here on the second hand and the Red Sea 200 meters at the bottom, I think it really just looks great. The other thing about this, the date wheel location, it's not bad really, honestly. It doesn't draw my eyes to it. When I first saw it, I was kind of like, I don't know, being right in the middle of 2 indices like that seemed a little bit weird. But it's good, and it's actually been very easy to read, which is a problem I have with a lot of my watches. I mean, I have to have the watch like 2 inches from my face to read the date. So in my opinion, half the time I don't even set them, honestly. But this one does work out very well. Now the band, again, if you've ever had Vostoks, they're usually completely crappy. Here's an example. This one never made it out. It still got plastic on it. Took the watch off, put it on a NATO strap. They feel like they're made of tin. They're pretty bad. This one is definitely not up there with some of my Seikos, which are also not the best bands in the world, but it actually is extremely comfortable. It fits real well. It's not a hair puller. It's really comfortable. As far as the finish on it, obviously it's a fingerprint magnet because you do have some high polish here in the center with the brushed stainless on the outer portions. But it's cool. I really do like it. It does add a little bit of pop to the watch, and it doesn't look too cheap. I kind of feel like too much chrome on the bracelets, too much high polish, I should say. Does make them look a little chintzy. This one pulls it off okay, so I don't mind it. And then on the side, you see signed crown. See if I can get a little bit closer there. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it. I don't have the greatest lighting, apologize for that. And it does have the lug protectors with screws on it, so it looks kind of like the Oris Aquas, but I don't believe, no, these might be able to come off. I wasn't sure if they were fake or they just fit really well, and I can't tell. The case design is pretty cool. The reason I like this watch or the other Vostoks or some of the other stuff I get is they're very different. You know, there's 1,000 Submariner, I don't know what you want to call them, copies or homages, I think they call them out there. And this just kind of stands apart on its own, like the other Vostoks, as well as a couple of the other newer versions. One is the Reef. That one's not quite as standoutish, but I do like it. And also the Amphibia Scuba, which I actually have on order because I got this one, liked it so much, I went and got that one. One of the things I like about this one and the Scuba is kind of the industrial look to it, is kind of how I refer to it. It certainly looks like a tool watch. It's big and it's heavy. The band's not very heavy, but the watch itself is pretty heavy. But I like that. I don't have small wrists. I don't know what size mine are because I never measured them, but a little over 7 inches. 7.5, 7. I don't know. I'm not really positive. But this size works for me. Now, as far as the size, they have it as the case itself is 44 millimeters, the depth at 14 millimeters, lug to lug at 54 millimeters, which sounds huge, but when I put it on my wrist again, you'll see it's not too bad. This one does come with a mineral crystal as opposed to the kind of acrylic. I don't remember the exact thing this is made out of, the lens, but you can, or excuse me, the crystal, but you can take a look. I believe it's like an acrylic pretty much, but it works with pressure for the water resistance. This one doesn't. It's a more standard design with a screw back case. And the strap is 22 millimeters. I don't know. Like I said, I kind of like this bracelet. I'm probably going to keep it off, even though I do have a lot of NATOs and rubber straps on different watches. Now, if we take a look at the back here, which is not easy with my terrible lighting here, but it is a screw down crown, and it's not your typical Vostok where it has the screw back case, excuse me, not the crown, the case, and then the case fits on top of the seal, and then it has a small ring around it that actually tightens down, so you're not twisting the seal. So it works on water pressure, basically, to tighten against the seals. This is a more traditional style. So anyway, that's kind of how I feel about this one. I'm going to show you sizes, comparisons. Here's a Orient, the Raven. I believe this one's the Mako Raven, or Ray, excuse me, Orient Ray Raven. I do wear this one from time to time, not a whole lot because it is a smaller case, but I do wear it from time to time. But you'll see big size difference here. And then the Seiko Samurai Save the Ocean. Now here's an example of kind of, excuse me, they're dirty, I wear them all the time, but of how I said this dial comes to life. The Seiko, I really thought when I ordered it, it would just pop like crazy. And I think the stainless version is a little bit lighter than this one, so it does. But it just, it's nice when the light hits it right, but when it doesn't, it just doesn't do a lot. Doesn't do a whole lot. Still good watch, though. I dove with this one a week ago in the Keys, and it was great. Could read it perfect, no issues. I wasn't deep because we were with some new divers, so we were only at about 30 foot on both dives, but I was very happy with it. Now, as far as the actual diving with this, I haven't done it yet, but I will. I'm trying to dive more. I got certified in 2003, I believe, and shockingly, I've only been on about 35 dives. So I am going to start picking that up some more of. It's just something I need to do because I do thoroughly enjoy it. One of the things as far as diving with this watch or being underwater or just timing in general, this bezel is extremely grippy on the edges. It's got that kind of coin edge bezel, but it's deep coin edge, and it's very easy to move. It is a 60 click bezel. It does have a little play in it, but the movement in it is great. Honestly, that stuff doesn't really bother me as long as it lines up and it's easy to turn. So for example, the Seiko turns nice and easy here, right? It feels great, but it's a little more slick. So when you're underwater, this can get a little difficult, believe it or not, at least for me. I mean, it's not difficult, it's doable. But the Amphibia has a much more grippy case, and it's easier to do underwater. I have had this one in the pool a few times already. And it's been much easier. Very easy to read underwater. It's just awesome watch. If you're thinking about it, I really suggest you go for it. I know it's tough when you're used to spending $75 on the other Vostoks to go up to that 180 range, but I really think it's worth it. This one does have a standard crown, whereas the other one's a little wobbly, as we know, by design. And no quick set date, because it's the same movement. But it winds really nice, smooth, got good resistance to it. I don't know. I just love it. So, and just real quick, one last wrist shot. And you'll see here when I was talking about the lugs, at 54 sounds ginormous. But on my wrist, which is 7 and a something inch wrist, because I don't really know, it doesn't hang over. You know, there's not really a big deal. And if you look at it, the lugs do curve down very nice. And they almost reach the bottom of the case. So it just, I don't know. It doesn't really feel like a 54 lug to lug to me. But there you go, see some of that light in there. And lastly, this is my first watch review, so you'll see I keep forgetting stuff. Lastly, I am going to do a Lume shot, so let me get these 3 up here, because I know that's something that a lot of people are interested in. This one does have Super Luminova, this Amphibia that is. Let me go turn off the light, give me 2 seconds. All right, let's get these charged up real quick. And the Lume is far superior to the older Vostoks. I don't think it's really quite to the Seiko level, but we're going to find out. This is the first time I've done them side by side. Let's see. Yeah, not even close to the Seiko. And actually doesn't look as bright as it normally does. Sorry, I'm going to blind everybody here. I don't think I hit it enough. All right, so there are the 3 Lumes. Of course, the Seiko's the brightest. No big surprise. I'm half blind because I was just staring at that. I would say the Orient's probably second, then the Vostok, and then the older Vostok. To be honest with you, this really looked a lot more bright when I wasn't blind or comparing it to the Seiko. That's just amazing. The Seiko Lume is just unbelievable. So anyway, there you have it. I appreciate it. If you have any comments, just leave them down below. If you're looking for more Vostok videos, there's plenty of them out there. You know, Time Teller, Texas Armory. I can't remember the name of his channel right now, but I'll probably indicate it below. But anyway, this is just one that I didn't see in English, and I wanted to put it out there. Have a nice day.